Right, so last time I was here, I was looking for a couple of hours because I had a couple of pints around the corner, and so I'm going to be quick today because I don't really know what the subject is. So what I'm going to say is this.
Can you tell us, in a nutshell, everything that we should look out for in the mortgage cases that we're involved in?
Right. Okay. Well, Stuart, I think there's people far more better than me.
Well, there are the lessons learned along the way.
Yeah. I mean, look, the lessons to be learned in all these matters are they're coming for you, right? They're coming for you. You know, I had £4 million worth of property with no, it wasn't encumbered in any way. And when I started engaging it and questioning things and started operating for, because I haven't done any sort of manual labour or anything in my life really, so I've just gone my own way. So when I inherited all the property, I thought, what can I do to contribute to the business? So, because I'd always been involved in criminal matters, most of it when I got in prison or whatever, but I thought maybe I can get involved in the legal situation. So I started investigating all the legal matters on behalf of our family business.
I know that are best criminals.
Yes, but I mean, look, so we were paying our lawyers at that time £30,000 a year, which is £600 a week. So I thought, at least whatever I do, that was on average. So I thought, whatever I do, I'm going to be contributing that much. And of course, every time I started investigating anything, it started to fall apart. So we had a lot of council tax properties and business rates. So I started looking at that. And I started seeing that the whole thing was a sham, and that they were operating in the wrong jurisdiction. If there was a debt, they should be in what they do in the magistrates court. It should be in the county court. And so, and everything I looked at and everything I picked away at fell apart very quickly. And when you do that, you start thinking, who are these professionals? You know, these professionals professionally ripping me off. You know, they're professional criminals. That's what they are for a lot. So you start looking at these accountants, and you start looking at these lawyers, and you start looking at these people and thinking, well, why are they making £100 an hour? Well, what are they doing for that? And really and truthfully, what the bottom line is that they've gone to university and they've studied for 6 or 7 years, come out, and then they've joined a gravy train. And I'm not saying that all of them are like that, but most of them are. You know, and it's culture now, what's happening. They think they deserve that now. They think they deserve getting whatever religious fee it is an hour. And of course, now they're just robbing everything off everybody. And so what I noticed was that it was like vultures spinning around my head. And I thought, they're coming for me, they're coming for everybody, because I can afford to pay off whatever I need to pay off. And the more I investigate, the more it fell apart. And then this sort of massive thing just sort of folded. And it's very encouraging to know that we were right. You know, there were people, you know, I mean, anyone who's investigating, doing research, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, because there are people before us who've done this, and we're able to see further ahead because we're on the shoulders of these giants. And of course, now we've nailed it. I mean, look, now they don't even use documents anymore, because we discovered that the documents are fake. So they'll come around with no documents. So over in Ireland, if you look at the moment, what's happening over there? They're going and raiding properties, and because people are supporting each other and they're standing up to these bailiffs, they're going around there with balaclavas on, covering up their number plates, and the police are supporting them. The police are saying, yeah, we're just here to make sure there's not a breach of the police, you know, the corporate police. So I mean, there's films on YouTube about that. I mean, it's incredible. So we know that they're coming for us. Well, what do? You know, you own your house, and you know they're coming for you. And recently, people have been contacting me enormous amounts. And recently, I've had people contacting me who don't even owe any money on their mortgage. Their mortgage payments are up to date, and they're still coming for them, saying they've got to sell the property. There's commercial property attached to it, so we have a commercial aspect. But so what do? When they came and got me, there was like 100 police and bailiffs in a helicopter. What do you do in these circumstances? You fight them off, you know, or you just say, okay, we'll go with this, but we'll have to attack it later. When you attack it later, you're attacking the same entity, the council, the police, the social services, all that lot, and they establish that and they can prove it to you, because they're in strategic partnerships. Now, what's the strategy? The strategy is to rob us. All right? They're in partnership. And so under MAPA, the multi-agency, they start giving each other information about us. So when you start questioning what's going on, if it be council tax, your electricity bills, anything like that, now what's happened, it's got to such a stage of people throughout the country, they've got such a stage that what they think is that anyone whose head pokes up above the parapet, they immediately nail as a free man. That's what they're doing. Free man, they'll call you. And then all of a sudden you go into a file, and then all of a sudden those people who before that might have just started questioning something with their rates or whatever, all of a sudden now they're in this free man file. So they start noticing that these brown envelopes come through the door all the time. And they're being told that their rates are changing, that this is changing, and all of a sudden they're getting bombarded. And that's the strategy. That's what the strategy is. And they're in strategic partnerships. And if you get any of their paperwork and you have a look, you'll see they're in strategic. So the court's in strategic partnership with the council. He's in strategic partnerships with the schools. He's in strategic partnership with the next one. They're all in the police and the courts. Now, if they're all in strategic partnerships and any of those bodies are taking you to court, what chance have you got? This is what's going on. That's so we've been in a civil war in this country for a long time, but people haven't woke up. They don't realise. And you keep giving them keys, but a key's no good unless you put it in the lock and turn it. Most people are just, it's their personal problems which are affected most, which is fair enough. But there's a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is, it's going to happen to all of you. It's, all of us, it's happening now, right? So please wake up. When you find out that this and that's wrong, go away and start and help everybody. Don't just join them lot again. Because really and truthfully, we're dealing with gangs, and that's what they are. They're gangs, strategically placed all over the country. Police, social services. So they're coming for your children, they're coming for your house, they're coming for your car, they're coming for everything they can get off you. And if you owe £1,000 to someone and you've got £20 million property, they'll bankrupt you. And then they'll for that £1,000, then all of a sudden the fees will be through the roof for these people. Okay? For these fake businesses, for these bailiffs, they don't produce anything. These solicitors and accountants and these receivers and all these characters all get into this situation. And when you get put in that situation, they then try grinding you down. But if you analyse what's happened to you and you go back through all the paperwork and all the process and all the procedure that's gone on, you find that it's all fake. Every bit of it. And this is what I've been telling you for years. It's fake. So if there's been a court order against you, fine. If Mr. Smith takes Mr. Jones to court, then you'll find a proper seal on the documents, you'll find a fee paid, everything gets dealt with properly. But if the bank or the council or utility companies are taking you in the same building, definitely the banks, 100%, they don't pay a fee. Why don't they pay a fee? Because if they don't pay a fee, there's been no court process. There's only a court process, there's a fee being paid in the civil court. So you find out all this is going on, then you pick that apart. Then of course they'll come in and they'll steal your house. So you go, okay, fair enough. Let's have a look at the land registry documents. And when you go to land registry documents, you find that it's all been fraud. The conveyancing solicitors haven't signed anything. And so, where's your deeds? Well, since 2008, the land registry have been shredding deeds. That's all they do. And then they just say they want you to accept that you're on their register. Of course, if some hacker hacks the land registry, wouldn't that be amazing? Who owns what then? So I've got all my deeds to all my properties, even though they've stolen nearly all of them. And they're about 3 foot high, so they go back in 1700, some of the properties. Well, I've got all the deeds, so I've got all the provenance. And it's all about provenance. It's very easy for someone to say that you owe me money. Well, where's the provenance to prove that you owe, to establish that? And it's the same with properties, exactly the same. If you've got a property, if you bought property and someone said, oh, I'll say a car, let's look at a car. I've got a car and there's another identical one with the same registration plate next to it, and there's 2 people there, and one's trying to sell the car for £1,000 and one's trying to sell it for 50 quid. And they look identical, but the look at the 50 quid, he hasn't got no paperwork, nothing. And then the other guy's got everything. He's got all the documents. What would you buy? You buy the one that's got the provenance, because the one's stolen property. And that's exactly what's going on. Everyone does their own research on these things. Don't listen to me, don't do your own research. There's enough on the internet to establish that all these things are true. And that all these criminal operations, really, which is going on in this country, they're all going on every day in every way. And we've got paperwork, you can fill this room with paperwork that's going on in this country, all over every single part of this country. Exactly the same things going on. Fake documents to try and stage your house. When you go to the court, and you ask to see the court file, and you ask to see the court file, you supply them with the directions to request a notice. And if you get access to your court file, you can see very simply the application form, the claim form made against you. Is there a fee paid? Is there a supporting affidavit? And in a lot of the cases with the banks, you will never find, well, most of the cases of the banks, you'll never find there's a fee being paid. And I don't think we've come across one yet. No, I don't think we have. So, all of a sudden, you know there's not been a court case against you. There's been a shadow court. Because that's what they do, they're operating shadow courts. So you think you're going into the court building, but really you're going into the venue of the court, but somewhere down the corridor, someone's got a private business enterprise going on. And they call you in there, and you go in there, and they claim to have manufactured your consent. And you've agreed to all these things happening to you. Of course you haven't. Of course that's fraud. It's fraud by misrepresentation. So all this stuff's going on. So everybody, what do you do? What do you do about it? You know, it's not going to be just saying all these things. We need some solutions, don't we? So, liens, that's the way to deal with that. The moment you know that they're surrounding you, that the vultures are surrounding you, okay, you're going to come and take this, you're going to come and take that, but I'm going to have ultimately something else. So I'll have to transfer whatever I've got into some sort of paper form to show that what I'm saying has got provenance, and then ultimately I'll look into all your documents and show that yours haven't. That's the only thing you in that respect, do. Right, great, okay. Secondly, all these commercial entities and all these corporate entities, they all have to have professional indemnity insurance. They've got to be indemnified, insured. So, if you read the professional indemnity rules, it says that actions, we'll come back to that. Professional indemnity rules are there. So if there's circumstances that give rise to a claim, that's where I am. Are there circumstances that give rise to a claim? If there are circumstances that give rise to a claim, even if that claim later has no merit, they must still be informed. So if you put £1 million claim against one of these clients, and you say, right, there's £1 million claim against you, they're obligated to tell their insurers that there's a claim, or we don't think it's got any merit, but they're obligated to tell their insurers. So that's another tool you use against these people. Or I might you hold them. So these are all these little things, and when they come for you, which they do, and they'll come for you, whether it be your house, it'll be your kids, it'll be whatever it is, they'll come and they're coming. And this is what's going on. You know, listen, we're all getting poisoned. We're getting poisoned in the skies, they're giving kids vaccines. If anyone investigates any of these areas, you start realising there's a bigger agenda going on all over the globe. And these things are coming to all of us. They're, police, terrorists. I mean, really, truthfully, there's been a terrorist thing going on again yesterday or whatever, or the day before, and it involved one guy, apparently. A whole city in Germany closed down because one guy, I mean, the whole thing's being manufactured, and it's clear for us to see it's going on. We're being closed in, and people have realised that the pressure's on, they're on top of us, all over us. And, it's no good just solving your problem with N Power or British Gas. You've got to think, well, okay, what happened to me was wrong, so go and investigate these things and look into these things and help other people. Because that's what we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here to help each other. And we're here for a very short time in life, and as you get older, it gets quicker. And at the end of the day, what do these characters want to take money on people for nothing? Parasites, yeah, professional parasites. In a lot of cases. But yes, parasites. That's exactly what they do. They're feeding off us, And we've got to put things right. And the only way to put things right is to get together, talk to each other. Don't just listen to like me. I mean, you can see me on YouTube over the years, go and watch. Communicate. The whole thing about these meetings is communicating with each other, talking to each other, discussing each other's problems, finding your own solutions, and attacking that beast out there with your little arrow. But your arrow's coming out of a quiver full of them, and they're all attacking things different ways. And we're all educating each other and all learning and all working it out. But there's a lot of people out there who haven't worked it out yet, and they can be annoying, but it's all about tolerance and patience. And people who annoy us, in Buddhism they say, people who really annoy you, really get on your nerves, you can't stand them. They're wonderful teachers. They're teaching you lessons in tolerance and patience. So we've got to treat them out there like children, a lot of people. So if they haven't done their own research and their own work on things, that's why they're like they are. If you're going to get a lawyer, which I certainly wouldn't employ a lawyer, but if you're going to get yourself a lawyer, then research the subject and instruct them. Instruct them. And if they're not able to take your instructions, then you have no confidence in them. Fire them. And if you've got no confidence in the legal system, then all of a sudden it becomes a different thing. But I mean, listen, I've been up here, like I say, a long journey. I apologise, I've gone through all that. If I can just say to you, it's wonderful to see there's a lot more people than there was last time. Just keep moving, keep spreading the information, and keep doing our own research. And if we need to contact each other and communicate with each other, let's do it, man. That's what it's all about. There's nothing else other than honesty and let's get things sorted. Okay?